You are paying a massive mental tax for every single photo you upload to the internet, and it is slowly draining your ability to be happy. While everyone else is busy chasing likes and filters, there is a group of people who have decided to stay completely invisible online. You might think they're just boring or have nothing to say, but the truth is, they have discovered a psychological superpower that most of us have forgotten. In this video, we are going to look at why the quietest people on your contact list might actually be the healthiest and most satisfied people you know. We will explore how staying offline changes your brain and why keeping your life private is the ultimate flex in the modern world. There is a strange thing that happens to your brain the moment you decide to post a photo of your lunch or your vacation. Psychologists call this the external validation loop, where your happiness is no longer about the experience itself, but about how people react to it. When you refuse to post your life online, you are essentially cutting the wires to that loop and keeping all that emotional energy for yourself. Imagine you are standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon and the sun is setting in a perfect orange and purple glow. The person who posts is thinking about the angle and the caption, while the private person is simply feeling the wind on their face. The private person is experiencing something called internal validation, which is the ability to feel good about your life without needing a thumbs up from a stranger. This creates a massive amount of mental clarity because you are no longer performing a character for an audience of 500 people. Think about a guy named Mark who hasn't updated his profile picture since 2014 and doesn't even have an app on his phone for photos. Mark goes to a concert and he remembers the smell of the air and the way the bass felt in his chest because his eyes weren't glued to a tiny screen. Research shows that when we take photos of an event to share them later, our brains actually stop storing the memory as deeply as they should. It is like your brain says someone else is recording this, so I do not have to bother remembering the details myself. People who stay offline are essentially building a high-definition library of memories in their own minds instead of a digital one on a server. But there is a deeper problem that we all face when we live our lives through a lens, and it starts with the concept of the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is a psychological bias where we think everyone is paying way more attention to us than they actually are. When you post, you are constantly checking to see who viewed your story or who commented on your new shoes, which creates a state of high alert. This keeps your nervous system in a state of mild stress because you feel like you're being judged and watched by the entire world. People who refuse to post have opted out of this judgment entirely, and they gain a sense of freedom that is almost impossible to describe. They do not wake up wondering if their life looks cool enough to be shared because they are the only person who needs to be impressed. Let's talk about the specific psychological benefit of mystery, which is something we have almost completely lost in the last 10 years. When you know every single thing your friend ate this week and every workout they did there is no longer any room for curiosity or deep conversation. The person who stays offline retains an air of mystery that actually makes their real-life social connections much stronger and more meaningful. When they sit down for coffee with a friend, they actually have things to talk about because their life hasn't been broadcasted in real time. There is also the huge issue of social comparison, which is the thief of all joy in the modern digital age. We usually compare our messy behind-the-scenes footage with everyone else's highlight reel, and we always end up feeling like we are losing. The person who doesn't post doesn't play this game because they aren't looking at the leaderboard of life every 15 minutes. They understand that their value isn't tied to a metric or a number of followers, but to the quality of their character and their daily habits. There is a specific moment of climax in this lifestyle where you realize that your life belongs to you and nobody else has a claim to it. This is what psychologists call autonomy, which is the feeling that you are the one in the driver's seat of your own existence. When you stop posting, you start living for the 5 senses instead of living for the digital cloud. You start to notice the way your coffee tastes and the way the ground feels under your feet because you aren't trying to frame it for a grid. You also avoid the trap of the digital shadow where your past mistakes or bad hair days are archived forever for the world to see. The private person has the luxury of changing and growing in secret without having to explain their evolution to a bunch of followers. They can be a different person today than they were yesterday, and they don't have to worry about being inconsistent with their online brand. This leads to a much more stable sense of self because their identity is built on solid ground rather than the shifting sands of internet trends. If you find yourself feeling anxious every time you go to share a photo, it might be time to ask yourself who you are really doing it for. The psychological piece of being a ghost online is a gift that you can give yourself starting right now. You don't have to delete everything, but you can start by keeping your best moments just for the people who are actually there with you. Try going an entire weekend without taking a single photo and notice how much more present and calm you feel by Sunday evening. You might find that the best parts of your life are the ones that no one else ever gets to see.